Right, so welcome to our class today. This is the intermediate class, and our theme this week is on the heart. And the element that's associated with the heart is air, which makes sense, right? Because that is where our lungs are. And so we'll be working with the breath today and trying to create a little bit more space around the breath, but not by forcing or straining or kind of pushing with the breath. But what we're going to do is move and stretch the muscles around the lungs, around the breathing apparatus, all through the torso, and see how that affects our breathing. So it's not about forcing the breath more deeply. Breathing normally will stretch and move the areas that support the breath, and then the breath naturally has more space to move into. So that's sort of the idea of where we're going. And of course, we have the heart and the lungs working together. So that also works with circulation and sending that energy through the body. So when we breathe, we're actually oxygenating the blood that circulates through the body. So last week we talked about flow and water, and this week air, and how those two things work together in our bodies. So we're going to start by doing a supported back bend. So if you're watching this in the replay, you could just pause for a moment and get what you need. It could be a folded blanket, something like this, long enough for your head and spine to be on, or it could be blocks or a bolster or whatever you've got handy. And if you find supported back bends actually don't feel good for you, then you can just lie on the ground with your arms open, and that will create a bit of a back bend for you. So you can go ahead and get yourselves on your mat, sorted out and set up, and we'll start there. All right, so I'm going to use my blocks, I think, to demonstrate the supported back bend, but if you've got a blanket and you want to do that, you can. So you can either use a cushion, as I've got here, for your head, and place one of your blocks sort of lengthwise, or if you don't have a cushion but you've got blocks, you can place one lengthwise and one sideways. This one would support your head. This one, your shoulder blades could be like this or like this. So play around, get comfortable. So I'm just bringing my shoulder blades onto one block, and then I'm going to adjust to find the position for the other block. I could do this with my cushion or blanket as well. So if you're using a blanket, you probably want to get your bum on the ground and then get that blanket lengthwise along your spine. And you can even kind of tuck the end under to give yourself a bit more of a pillow. So however you get there, just take a moment, adjust, get as comfortable as you can. So this is a really passive way of kind of opening up the area around the heart and lungs, so that the breath will naturally move a little more deeply without our effort. And I want to say, for sure, if you aren't comfortable in this position, just get on the ground, get rid of whatever's under you, get on the ground, maybe take the arms a little wider to help support that feeling of opening across the chest. So wherever you are, in whatever way you've found to be comfortable in this open position, we're simply going to let the breath be as it is for a moment. So you're just noticing that you're breathing. You can have bent knees or straight legs. Again, it's really according to what feels better for you, as long as you're comfortable. And if you're not comfortable, please adjust or just come to the ground. So you're not needing to or trying to breathe any differently here. You're just being with your breath as it is, letting it come and go, and trusting that this position will help to support the breath without your effort. Notice where your attention is, and if you've wandered off somewhere, see if you can bring your focus back to the breath for a few more breaths here. So not trying to breathe differently or deeper, being aware of the breath as it is. Before we move from this position, we'll do a little bit of movement for the arms to help open up this area a little more. Be gentle with your shoulders here, especially if you're raised up. So you're probably not going to bring your hands behind you to the ground, so you stop whenever it feels right for you. So start with your hands down alongside your body, arms alongside your body, and then slowly lift the arms up. And you'll keep lifting towards that space over your head, and at some point your shoulders will likely say, please don't go any further, and you'll listen to that, and you'll bring the arms back down. Take your time, do this a few times. Don't worry about how you're breathing, but do keep breathing as you're doing this. And move really slowly. Notice that point. You know, it may be a different point later in the class after being warmed up, but at this point, where do your shoulders say, that's enough, and ask you to bring the arms back down. So we're not going right to the very limits of our movement, but really honoring that first edge when the shoulders say, enough. Let's try maybe one more like that. And then next time your arms end up back down on the ground beside you, we're going to change positions now. And the easiest way to come out of this position is to just simply roll off your blocks or your bolster or your blanket or towel or whatever you've got. Use your opposite hand against the ground to help support you to come upright. We're going to end up coming to hands and knees. So you can move your blocks or whatever you got there aside. And coming to all fours. So just to release a little after the back bend, the supported back bend, a little bit of extension and flexion with the spine. So you're letting your head and tail lift, and then tucking your head and tail in. Here you could coordinate your breath, so exhale as you round your back into cat pose. Inhale as you arch your back into cow pose. And then you can either stay with this movement, or if you want a little bit more of that back stretch, you can come to child's pose on your exhale, back to all fours on your inhale. And continue at your own pace. Right, and then take a few breaths in child's pose. Before you go back there, you may want to take the knees a little bit apart. Move the hips back toward the heels, and then the head either onto your hands or onto the ground. If your knees don't want to bend that much, stay upright a little more, so be more in puppy pose with the hips a little higher. If you're happy in child's pose, you can rest there for a few breaths. And the instruction here is to tune back into your breath and see if you can feel any movement anywhere in the back of your body as you breathe. So it could be lower back, middle back, upper back. There's no right or wrong. You're simply tuning in. And even if you don't feel breath in the back of your body, it's not wrong. It's just, it can be very, very subtle. from our child's pose, we're going to roll slowly upright to sit on the heels. And again, if your knees don't want to bend this much, you're not going to want to sit on your heels. You're going to come up into a high kneeling position so your hips are off your heels. So either way, this will be your starting position for our next series, either right here or sitting down like this. So arms at your sides. We'll inhale and lift the arms, lift the hips if you're sitting down. Find a little lift in the heart, and then exhale and move to child's pose. As you take your next inhale, come to all fours, lifting the head, lifting the tail. And then your next exhale, you can tuck your toes under, lift to downward dog. Keep your knees bent. Maybe walk slowly on the spot, opening the calves a little bit. You're welcome to drop back down to all fours or child's pose at any time. And then we'll lower the knees, coming back down to all fours. Take a breath in, lift your head, lift your tail slightly, and then exhale, round and come to child's pose. And then we'll inhale, lift all the way up, reaching your arms overhead. Big breath in, and then exhale back to where you started. So either high kneeling or sitting back on your heels. Take a moment to do a few circles with your wrists. You can do this with hands open and with fists, which creates a little different feeling, a little different stretch. Right, and then give them a little shake. And anytime if your weight is on your hands and it feels like too much, drop to child's pose, do a few movements for your wrist to release. So we'll keep going. Again, inhale and lift, lifting up the arms, lifting onto your knees, and then exhale, child's pose. Inhale, come to all fours. Exhale, downward dog. Spend a couple of breaths in downward dog. Again, if you like, you can walk on the spot. And then eventually back down to hands and knees, breathing in and finding a little arch or extension in the spine, and then exhale to child's pose. Inhale, high kneeling, lifting up. And then exhale back to your own starting position, wherever that was. So next time we go through this series, we're going to be stepping forward from downward dog into warrior pose. If you have blocks and you find them helpful to give you a little lift through the arms, it's definitely easier to step forward. You can bring your blocks to the front of the mat. And if you don't have blocks, don't worry, you can just step forward in any way that works for you. So lowering your back knee to step forward or whatever works. So from here, as you're ready, lifting up, breathing in. Exhale to come to child's pose. Inhale, coming up to all fours. If you're using blocks, you'll bring your hands onto your blocks and then move into downward dog. Take a moment in downward dog. Some people like to swing the back leg, so lifting it first to swing through to get a bit of momentum. We're going to take the left leg and bring it forward. So however you get there. As I mentioned, without blocks, sometimes lowering the back knee can be helpful, and then you'll lift it back up. You're going to take the back foot, turn it out to the side so that your whole foot can be on the ground. And if it feels like you're really stretched out, take your back foot a little bit forward. From here, coming up into warrior one. So breathing in as you lift up. And then we'll move forward. Exhaling, you can bring your hands either to the knee or to your blocks to the floor. Let your head release. And then inhale and lift. Your front knee is going to bend as you lift up. It can stay bent, or if you want more stretch, move it straighter as you come forward. A couple more like this. Coming into warrior, the back bend. Exhale, the forward bend version. Great. Next time you come upright, stay upright. We'll bring the arms down. Front knee is bent, but if you feel any tension in your lower back, you can move your front leg straighter or even bend your back knee a little bit. Right? So the more we bend the front knee and straighten the back leg, the more we're putting an arch in the lower back. Right? And then bring some of that arch out of the lower back by drawing the belly button back and dropping the tailbone down. And then raising the arms out in front. We're going to bring the elbows back and take a breath in. So increasing that arch a little bit. Exhale, reach the arms forward. Open up through the back. Inhale, open. Exhale, reach forward. Inhale, open. Good, and then this time we will come back forward, bringing the hands to the ground or the blocks and step back to downward dog. Take a couple of breaths there, maybe again walking on the spot. And then we'll step the other foot forward. So again, take whatever variations you need to get there. You'll take your back foot, turn it out, maybe step it a little forward if you find that helpful. And then we'll inhale and lift up. So again, that front leg bends as you come up. The less bend in your front knee, the less back bend. And you could move it straighter as you come forward if you want more stretch for the back of the front leg. So let's repeat that a few times. Inhaling as you lift. Exhaling as you come forward. Great, this time when you come upright, let's stay up. We'll release the arms to the sides and then find just the right position for the legs. So remember, more bent. You don't want to go past your ankle here, but bent as far as over the ankle. And then straight back leg. That's going to be the maximum kind of amount of back bend that's invited in this position. If you want a bit less, straighten the front leg, maybe bend the back knee a little bit. And you can also use your core, so you're engaging the abdominal muscles and dropping down with the tailbone, and that takes some of that arch out of the lower back, right? We could be really arched here, or we can try to come back to a bit of neutral. And then from there, lifting up. Big breath in, reach the arms back, chest forward, and then upper back, reaching behind you as the arms reach forward, head can come down. Inhale, opening. Exhale, opening the back of the body. Couple more. Great, and then this time as you come into the exhale, you'll come forward. We're going to step forward this time. So take your back foot, bring it to meet your front foot. Let your head hang down for a moment, bend your knees. And then we'll take the hands, slide them up the shins to the knees, lift the heart, draw the shoulders back, and then exhale, try to bring your chest down toward your thighs. You can wrap your arms behind your legs if you like, let your head release down, and take a few breaths here. An alternate would be just to rest your elbows on your thighs if that's a better option. And then release the arms, keep your knees bent, soften your arms and let them really dangle, and then slowly roll up, bringing your head up last. Okay, and then as we come to stand, let's take the feet a little bit apart. Soften the knees and roll the shoulders, one shoulder and the other. Let your body twist. You can even let your head go a little. And after a few times one way, go the other way. Great, and come back to the center. Let's take the hands to the hips, and again, soft knees. We'll do a few circles with the hips. I always like to get a little bit of movement, rotations in the shoulders and hips, the two joints closest to the spine. So when those joints are nice and mobile and lubricated, we have also more ability to move the spine. Great, and then coming back to the center, you can place the feet wherever they're comfortable. Generally, for mountain pose, they're under the hips, but a little further apart is fine too, whatever works for you. And have a feeling of the heels dropping into the earth and a little lift at the heart. So shoulders naturally move back a little bit. We're not pinching and pushing them back, but just as you lift the heart, there's this natural extension across the shoulders and collarbones. From here, we'll rotate the arms out. Take a breath in and lift up. Bring the palms together overhead and exhale. Bring the hands down to the space in front of your heart. Put a little bit of pressure against your hands until you feel the muscles across your chest wake up. The wrists and hands start to feel a bit of stretch. Relax your jaw. Relax your shoulders. From here, we'll lift, breathing in. Reaching up, and then exhale, big circle around. If you can bring your hands behind your back and interlace your fingers, you can do that. Otherwise, just keep the arms apart, and then draw the shoulder blades down. So there's this sort of natural expansion across the chest as we draw the shoulder blades back a little bit and down, and then breathe into that space. So feel the front of your lungs expanding. And slowly release the arms, bring them out to the sides, palms facing forward, reach and spread your fingers wide and reach out to the sides. Your arms are an extension of your heart. So feel that stretch and energy along the arms. Big breath in. And then as you exhale, bring your hands, cross them over your body. Give yourself a big hug. Let your elbows relax down, shoulders relax down. Soften your knees. Round your upper back a little bit to bring your head down, and then sway a little bit with your upper body side to side. So see if you can feel some movement into that space around the thoracic spine, the back of the ribs and the shoulder blades. And then coming back to the center, you're going to lift the head, lift the chest a little, release the arms, inhale and lift again. And then hands come back together at the heart. Put a little bit of pressure against your hands again. Feel that engagement across the chest, wrists, forearms. And then inhale and lift. Exhale, big circle. Bringing the hands together behind you. Interlace your fingers. Draw the shoulder blades down and slightly back. So it's not forcing or squeezing. Really, this position does most of the work, and then soften into your breath here. Okay, we'll release and lift the arms to the side. Spread the fingers wide, palms forward, reach out. If you remember which arm was on top last time, you can do the opposite this time, bringing the arms across your body. If it feels really easeful and normal, you probably did the same side again, so you can always switch. Drop your elbows and shoulders down, soften your knees, round your upper back a little, bring the head down, and then sway a little side to side, inviting some space and movement into the back of the heart, the back of the rib cage, back of the lungs. And then come back to the center, lifting the head, release the arms. Big breath in, reach all the way up. And then hands come together and back to the heart. Again, a little pressure into the hands. Feel the arms and chest engage. Right. And then let's take the hands so that the palms face down, the index fingers are together, and then bring the backs of your hands together. And roll the fingertips in towards you very slowly, feeling that little circle on the wrist. And then you'll end up with the palms open in front of you. You'll roll the hands over so that the palms are down. Keep rolling back so the hands in, around, and out. So just roll over and repeat that a few times. And then reverse. So come back in, around. And just keep rolling the hands around. And really, if something different happens for you, that's fine. It's really mostly about moving the wrists here. Great. And then give them a shake. Excellent. Well, let's take the feet a little bit wider now. So shoulder width or even slightly wider. Soften your knees, and we'll come into a side bend. So we'll take one arm, reach up, breathing in, and then reaching over as you exhale. As you come up, switch the arms, breathing in, and then exhale, reaching to the other side. Inhale, lifting. Exhale, reaching. Inhale, lifting. Exhale to reach. One more to each side. And then we'll come back and release that arm down. You can keep the feet the same distance apart or even go a little wider for side angle pose, our next position. So what we'll do for this one is you'll take one foot, turn it out to the side, and bend the knees so that the knee and ankle more or less line up. Arms reach out to the sides, breathing in. But without pushing your back hip out, reach your rib cage over to the side, and then either take your hand onto your thigh, or you can reach down with your forearm, and then reach straight up with the other arm. Right. And we'll make circles with this upper arm. So you're gonna bring that arm down by your hip, turn your shoulders toward the ground, sweep your fingers over the ground, reach up all the way, big circle overhead, and coming back. So let's do a few circles like that. Go at your own pace. Right. And then next time your arm is down and your shoulders are facing the ground, just let that arm hang. Maybe you can give it a little shake. You can circle around a little, just releasing any tension in that arm and shoulder. And then we'll continue that circle up over the head, coming all the way around and bring the palm back behind the back. And then draw that shoulder back a little and take a few breaths here. So if you want a little more stretch, take the arm from behind your back, reach it overhead, palm facing the floor. And breathe into the space, the side of the rib cage, the waist, the hip. When you're ready to come up, you can lift all the way back to center. Straighten the front leg and bring your feet parallel to one another. Let's turn the palms up, breathe in. Reach up, we're gonna bend the knees slightly and sweep all the way down to the ground, reaching the hands to the ground, letting the head release. And then sweep all the way back up, reaching up. And exhale to bring the arms down to your sides. Then we'll go the other direction. So your other foot becomes the front foot now. You can bend that knee so that it's over your ankle. The back foot is really whatever angle works for you. So for some people, turning the foot in, or having it straight or even slightly turned out works. So see how that back ankle feels. Arms out to the sides. Again, without pushing this hip out to the side, reach your rib cage over and then release down either the hand or it could be the forearm coming down. Reach the upper arm right up as if you're trying to reach something just out of your grasp above you. And then with that nice extension of the arm, we'll make some circles coming down by the hip. You'll turn your shoulders toward the ground, sweep over the ground, and continue that circle. So do a few more like that. And then next time your arm is hanging down, let it hang there. You can give it a little shake or do a few circles, whatever feels good to just really release that shoulder. Let it hang. There's no effort here. And then you can continue that circle overhead as you come back behind you, turning the palm back and letting the back of the hand rest against the sacrum or lower back. And then draw that upper shoulder back a little to really lengthen up the side of your body. And then breathe into that space that you've created. Now again, if you want more, and this is totally optional, you'll raise the arm over the head, palm will face the ground, and you're reaching from your back foot out through your fingertips, breathing into that long, exposed side of your ribs, into the waist, into the hip. Coming up, you'll inhale, lift back up to the center, straighten the leg and turn your feet parallel, turn the palms up, big breath in. We'll do a few forward bends this time. Soften your knees, release forward, let the head release, and then inhale, come all the way up. And repeat that a few more times at your own comfortable pace. This time when you go forward, you can stay for a few breaths. Options to either have the hands or elbows on the thighs or reaching down toward the ground. So whatever feels right for you. It's not like one is better than the other. I find when I've got my elbows braced against my knees, I can kind of get some nice traction for my spine by pressing back with the hips or with the head. But hanging also, crossing the arms, there's a nice traction there. So find what works for you for a few more breaths. And then when you're ready, releasing the arms to the sides, come all the way up, breathing in, reaching up overhead. And then exhaling to release. Step your feet back in towards each other. So about underneath the hips is a good distance. And then bend and straighten your knees a few times. Just releasing the ankles, the knees, the hips a little bit. Right. And then we'll come into sun salutation. So again, blocks are handy if you find stepping forward difficult from downward dog, but you don't need them. If you don't need them, you don't have to have them. And if you don't have them, you can certainly work without them. So we're going to come towards the front of the mat. So, or if you're not using a mat, just make sure you've got some space to step back behind you. Well, let's take the arms up overhead. Breathing in. As you exhale, imagine you're going to sit in a stool. That's sort of a slightly high stool. Good. And then see if you can lift your arms and bring the upper body back over your hips. Good. Sink down a little more. Good. And then lift all the way up. Big breath in. And we'll release into a forward bend. Soften your knees as you go forward. Bring your hands to your shins and come up about halfway with the breath in. And then exhale to release forward. Let's take an extra breath here. And then you'll step back with your right foot to come into lunge. Pause and lunge for a moment. Feel the strength in your legs. So of course your hands are on the ground here. You can imagine putting way less pressure in the hands, even lifting them up to feel the strength in your legs. Great, and then we'll bring the hands down. We're going to step back to plank. So you want to find enough space between your hands and feet that your body can be in a flat line. If this feels like a lot of effort or bothers your wrists, you'll lower your knees. Otherwise, another couple of breaths here. And then we're all going to take the knees to the ground if they're not there already. You'll bend your elbows. Let your body kind of slump down as you roll down thighs, belly, chest, forehead. Slide your hands forward so that your elbows are on the ground and your shoulders can be relaxed here. Press down into your hips, down into your thighs. So you're gently engaging the muscles of your buttocks. And then without pressure on your hands, lift your chest and head. And then imagine you're pulling your hands and your mat back toward your hips to feel your upper back engaging. Take a couple of breaths here. And then slowly lower. Slide your hands back so your elbows are up off the ground. You can come first to all fours, or if it's available to you, you could tuck your toes under from here and lift up to downward dog. Okay, so from downward dog, whichever foot you stepped back with, you're going to step forward with the same foot. I don't think I specified. So if you remember, you're going to step forward so that you're in lunge on the other side. So for me, it's the right foot. Good, and once you get yourself in lunge, and again, do whatever you need to modify to get there. Put a little less weight in your hands, maybe even lift the hands to feel your legs working a bit here. And then hands down, we'll step forward. Release your head down for a couple of breaths here. And then we'll come to that half forward bend, hands to shins, finding length. Exhale to release. Inhale and lift all the way up. And exhale to release down. So we'll do another sun salutation. We'll work a little bit more with lunge and then spend a little bit more time on the belly, working with some of those called contraction back bends, where we have to contract the back to lift and open the front of the body. So from here, big breath in, reach up. Let's exhale, come to our half squat. And then again, lifting the arms, bringing the shoulders back over the hips. You feel the muscles of your back working. Make sure you're breathing. Sit down a little more if that's available to you. Try not to tip forward, so keep lifting the upper body. Good, and then lift all the way up, big breath in. And then exhale into your forward bend. Softening your knees as you go. Inhale, hands to shins, lengthening. Exhale, fold forward. So let's all step back with the left foot this time. And then coming into lunge. So you can stay here as we did before with your hands on the ground. If you want and feel balanced and this is available to you, you can lift your hands up onto your front knee. Great. So you should have your right leg forward, and then we'll keep the right hand on the knee, and you can even slide the hand back to lift your body more upright. And take the other arm and extend it overhead. So imagine from your back heel all the way through your body and up to the top hand, a long line, and you're extending that line, breathing into the left side of your rib cage, waist, hip. Now, if you're still here or hands on the ground, totally fine. We're going to bring the hands down, step back to plank. Hang out in plank for a couple of breaths, either here or with the knees down. Try not to sag your body, so press into your arms and feel as strong as you can here. And then we'll lower the knees and roll down. Thighs, belly, chest, and forehead. And then slide your hands forward again, getting the weight off your wrists. So pressing down into the hips, down into the thighs. We're going to lift the chest and head and lift the legs as well. Breathing in, pull back with your hands toward your hips, and then exhale to release. Inhale, lift. Exhale, release. And a couple more. I always find these back bends are really challenging, so if you do too, you're in good company. Lifting up, stay for a few breaths. Keep pulling back with your hands. If you want to work harder, reach your arms forward. Good, and then if you move the hands, you're gonna bring them back, slide the hands back to the lower rib cage, so the elbows are lifted, lower your forehead down, and then coming up actually let's come to child's pose after that. So you can come up to all fours, walk your hands back, sink your hips toward your heels or leave them lifted if that's better for you, and come into child's pose for a few breaths. So let child's pose be an opportunity to release those muscles all along the spine that you were just engaging, using them to lift your arms and legs and chest and head. And see if you can feel some movement. As those muscles release in your back, you might feel the breath moving into your lower back, your middle back, your upper back. Again, just noticing what you're aware of. So from child's pose, we'll make our way back to all fours. You can reach the hands slightly ahead of your shoulders, getting ready for downward dog. Lift up. And it will be the left foot we're stepping forward this time. So again, whatever you need to do to get there is great. Find the strength in your legs by releasing the hands a little bit, and then if you feel comfortable and if it feels available to you, you can lift your hands up onto your front knee and walk that left hand back a little bit to help lift your body, and then right arm extending overhead. And imagine that line from your back heel pressing down to the fingertips of your hand and growing that line long. Right, and then we'll lower down and step forward. Let your head release, take a couple of breaths here. And then hands to shins, find length in a half forward bend. Exhale to release. And then inhale and lift all the way up. Exhale. And arms to your sides. Pause here for a moment. Just feel the energy in your body. You might feel a little warmth, circulation from our sun salutations. Drop down through your heels, lift up through the crown of your head. And feel the space that we've created around the upper back, chest, and shoulders so far. Great, and then we're going to move into one more sun salutation. We'll spend a little bit more time again on our bellies, on the ground. And the option here is to repeat the movement that we just did or come into the bow pose, which I'll show you when we get there. Totally optional. It's a lot more challenging than the boat pose that we just did. So stay with me and we'll come into our last sun salutation for this class. So breathing in, lifting up. Good, let's come right into the forward bend as you exhale, soften your knees. We'll take the right leg back this time. And you have, again, the option to keep the hands on the ground, or you could bring the hands to the front knee, or now if you like, you can sweep the arms up, coming into high lunge. Pausing here for a couple of breaths. Right, when you're ready, hands come down, we'll step back to plank. And honor your wrists. If it's too much for you, lower the knees or even bring the knees under you to all fours. And then we're going to lower the knees, but keep in that plank. And then roll down from thighs. You want to bend your elbows as you come down. Thighs to forehead. Sliding the hands forward. So press down into the hips and thighs and pull back a little with your hands toward your hips. It'll give you a little traction in your spine. Lift the legs, lift the head. Up and release. So if you want to stay with that version, that's going to be your simplest version here, lifting and lowering. If you want a little more, take your arms back And as you lift, you reach the arms toward the legs and release. Great, you can stay for a few breaths in either position, or if you want to try working with bow pose and it's available to you, you can either reach back and take your feet or reach back and pretend to take your feet. Either way. And then as the legs reach back, the upper body lifts. And so you can do this holding the feet or not, doesn't matter. Or you can be in any version of both that we've already done. Think about your shoulders releasing forward as the legs pull them back, if you're in bow pose. And then when you're ready, come on down and release. And actually take the legs here, have them about 90 degrees bent, and roll side to side. Just give a little movement for your lower back. And then coming to the center, you can stretch the legs back, walk the hands back, come up to all fours. And after that deep back bend, let's do a little movement of cat-cow or all fours to child's pose here. So you're inhaling, arching, exhaling, rounding, and maybe adding child's pose. Do a few movements with your breath at your own pace. If child's pose is comfortable, stay there. If not, modify into puppy or any other pose here that would feel good to you. Again, as you're resting in child's pose, use this opportunity to see if you can feel some movement, some expansion in the back of your body with your breath. And then we'll make our way upright from child's pose to all fours. You might walk your hands just slightly ahead of your shoulders for downward dog. And then lifting up in downward dog. Come forward with the right foot. Again, you can stay down in lunge. You can bring your hands to your knee, or if it's available, you might sweep all the way up into high lunge. Pausing here for a couple of breaths. Just like we did in warrior, think about engaging your core. So belly is moving back, tailbone dropping down. And then we'll bring the hands down and step forward. Let your head release for a couple of breaths. And then hands to shins halfway up as you breathe in. Exhale and release. And then inhale and come all the way up. Reaching the arms overhead and exhaling to let go. Good. And then just pause for a moment in mountain pose. We're going to be making our way to the ground in a moment. Just take a moment to feel the energy in your body. Just did a few good sun salutations and back bends. So you might feel the energy that comes with that. And just notice what's present. You know, maybe for you it's exhaustion. So don't take my suggestions as how you should feel, but how you might. And then really tune into what's true for you. Big breath in, exhale completely. And then we're going to make our way to the ground. So you can come down to lie on your back. And as you come onto your back, start with your knees bent. Bring your hands onto your body, maybe one around the lower rib cage or the heart, one a little lower on the belly. Find a position that feels comfortable for you. And try to have your elbows on the ground. So if you have to have your elbows up to reach, then just be more on the sides of your body so that your elbows can relax, so you're not bringing tension into your neck and shoulders here. And if that doesn't feel comfortable, just let your hands be wherever they are so you can be relaxed. And take a few breaths here as you let your body settle. Letting go of the effort of the standing poses. We're going to work next with a bridge pose, which is, it's a very mild back bend, though it does, depending on how you do it, can create lots of opening in the shoulders. We'll start with the arms down at the sides. And I will say for this one, if you want to do a supported version, it's quite nice to either take a firm cushion like a meditation pillow or a block to slide under your hips. We're really going to be working mostly with the upper body here. So if you can support your hips, there's less effort for your legs. But of course, if you want to work on strength with your legs, then forget about the support. So we'll start with the heels under the knees, about hip distance apart, side to side. And then from there, pressing into the feet till you feel your tailbone start to lift, and then peeling the spine up off the ground. So once you come into bridge, again, if you want to support with a block or a firm cushion, you can do that, or you can simply stay working with the strength of the legs here. So either way, again, checking with your shoulders, if it feels comfortable, you can kind of wiggle to one side and roll the shoulder under, the palm will turn up, roll the other shoulder under, palm will turn up, and then you've got lots of space between your shoulder blades, between your shoulder blades and the ground. Your shoulder blades are actually coming closer together in this position. Your weight might be more on your upper arms than on your back, and then you can press down into your arms. For some of you, especially if you're not using a block, you might be able to comfortably bring your hands together underneath you to interlace your fingers and press down with the arms. If that strains your wrists, your elbows, your shoulders, then just leave the arms separate. So if you've been working without a block, you might feel your legs starting to feel the effort. You can come down anytime. When you do come down, you're going to wiggle your shoulders apart first if you brought them in. And if you're still comfortable here, you can spend a few more breaths. And when you are ready to come out, if you've interlaced your fingers, you'll release them. You'll wiggle and release the shoulders, and then slowly release your spine back to the ground. And then knees to chest. You can rock a little side to side, or take your knees in a bit of a circle here, just giving a bit of massage to the lower back, the back of the sacrum, the hips, releasing. Okay, and then slowly release your feet down to the ground and reach your arms up toward the ceiling, palms facing each other. You do a few circles to begin with the wrists. One way and the other a few times, either open hands or with fists. Great, and then again, reach the fingertips up and reach up so you're lifting your shoulder blades up off the ground. Take a big breath in, feel some space between your shoulder blades, and then as you exhale, let the shoulder blades soften and sink down. And then bend your arms, take one hand to each elbow, so you've got a little bit of a square shape over your chest. And then you're going to roll your head to one side as you take the elbows to the same side. And then you'll roll your head and bring your elbows back to center, and then go the other way. You're feeling that twist likely in the upper back as you do this movement. And you can stay with just working with the upper body. That's been our focus today. Or if you like, you can let the legs go one way as your arms and head go the other. Just start really nice and easy so you don't overdo it. See how your body accepts that movement, and then maybe make it deeper if that feels right for you. Okay, if it feels right to stay for a few breaths on each side, you can do that either with the arms in this position, or you can release them and extend them out. Really make it your own. So whatever would feel good here for you. For a few more rounds or a few more breaths. And eventually, and there's no rush, you'll come back to the center. When you do come back to the center, bringing the knees in toward your chest, and we'll go forward and back. So start with straight arms, take a breath in, and then exhaling, let the knees come into the chest. And for a little more focus here, you can let the breath initiate the movement. So you actually start exhaling, and then the knees come in, and then you start inhaling. And it's almost like the knees push, or the breath pushes the knees away, continuing. You can take extra breaths anytime you need them, so you're not straining with the breath. And just finding a nice, easeful movement here. After your next exhale, knees are into the chest. You can extend the legs and arms up toward the ceiling. Separate the feet a little so you can circle the wrists and ankles. You can keep the knees bent a bit if that's more comfortable for your lower back, your legs. And then give them all a shake, all those limbs. Let your ankles and wrists be relaxed. And then eventually knees come back into the chest. You can give yourself a nice hug here. And any movement. So you could repeat any of the movements we've done, or simply hold the knees here. And then as you're ready, slowly releasing, and we'll prepare for Shavasana. So if you want a blanket, maybe the blanket you used under your spine earlier, you can throw that over you, or perhaps say a sweater or something, just making sure that you're warm enough. So after we've done a bit of movement and sun salutations, the body warms up. So you want to make sure you stay cozy as you relax. You can also choose to sit for this last part, though most people prefer the relaxation of Shavasana lying down. It's up to you. So legs can be bent or straight. Hands can rest on your body or on the ground. Ideally, your head is centered between your shoulders so that the whole spine is in alignment. And the weight of your hips is sinking down. And letting go now completely of the effort of the practice. Let your breath come back to the most easeful breath you can find. No effort. You feel that as you exhale, you're able to let go a little bit more with each exhalation, that you find softening and ease around the muscles. Feel like even your bones settle back into that cradle of flesh, your muscles, skin, the tendons and ligaments. Relax your jaw and the muscles of your face. And let the weight of your head sink down. As you exhale, feel your shoulders drop, your arms release, and your hands soften. Feel the breath around your ribs. Feel the movement in your chest. Feel the back of your shoulder blades, back of your rib cage settling and softening. And let the area around your middle, the waist and the lower back, relax and release. The weight of your hips and pelvis sinking down. Relaxing any tension in the thighs. Feeling your knees drop, your calves release. Ankles and feet could even let go a little more. Exhale, soften even more. Wherever you notice that you're holding, there's no effort with the breath, but each exhalation perhaps finding a little more ease in the body. Share with you a short part of a longer chant that talks about the heart and the area around the heart being our core or our center, not separate from our thoughts or our emotions or our instincts. And when we're connected to our center, to our heart, we understand and feel our connection to all that is, to each other, to nature. And when we feel that connection to all that is, to ourselves, to each other, to all that is living, we understand that we're not separate from God or our higher selves, whatever you want to call it, that we are deeply connected through the heart. Hridayam hai aham amrite amritam brahmani Hridayam hai aham amrite amritam brahmani Hridayam hai aham amrite amritam brahmani Back to awareness of your breath as it is. Just notice that you're breathing. And if it feels right for you and feels comfortable and not a strain, you might deepen the breath a little bit, taking just a little bit more air with your inhale, fully and completely exhaling. You're not trying to breathe as deeply as you can, just inviting a bit more energy with your breath. Eventually you can add some movement, so it might start with your fingers and toes, your ankles and wrists, and then gradually moving and stretching in any way that would feel good to you. Take your time. The beauty of doing yoga in your own place, in your own space, is that you can do longer of really anything, but Shavasana in particular in this moment. So if you want to stay where you are, stay. And if you're ready to move on with your day, add a little more movement. So stretching and moving, whatever way would feel good. Maybe eventually rolling again onto your side as a transition, taking your time from there as you're ready to slowly come back upright. And then when you come back to seated, if you've joined me here in seated, you can bring your palms together. And perhaps have the intention as you go through your day to simply notice your breath. Notice when you're holding your breath, which is a stress response in the body, creates more stress, unfortunately. Being with your breath, and allowing it to continue to flow, and being aware when you block that flow of life by blocking your breath. Namaste.